being able to break out of your comfort zone in order to get what you want or to help people, because essentially that's what you should be doing in the first place, is something that if you can find that in somebody, hire that person.
So you want to start a business with McCall. I haven't even introduced myself like at all in any of these, which is fine. It's not important. We're hanging out with my friend Danny, who's one of my favorite people to just like talk business with in general. So Danny, when it comes to business, when it comes to everything, I haven't even prepped this. What do you want to talk about? The whole premise of the podcast is obviously to make sure that like people can hear stories of how to become successful and what to do, the steps to take, and you know the barriers to break down and go through to be able to just like do it, like quitting your job, starting over, doing a whole new thing.
So this has been my marketing plan since day one.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
The biggest problem that business will face, regardless of that's you as a consultant, as a single person, or whether that's a major corporation, is that people don't know what you do, where you are, or how to contact you.
Yeah.
Right? Obscurity will always be your biggest problem.
Yeah.
So your marketing plan should be, how do I break through all of that noise?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's something people are not like paying attention to. Because there are so many people that it's like, oh yeah, well, and I think with my job especially, to backtrack for a second, I think with my job especially, the thing that people start off with is like, everybody knows exactly who I am and exactly what I'm doing, but they don't. Like people are tuning in. People are tuning into your business, if you will, just starting from phase number 1, which is who the crap are these people and what the crap are they doing and why do they want my business? Why are they trying to take my money from me?
Right.
And that's exactly what it goes back to, because people don't take the time to introduce themselves or to introduce what their product is, really.
Right. Well, it's not even the introduction alone itself, but like if I'm a business that's got multiple products, I do multiple services, and that's what I do. Right. I do multiple financial services across the board.
Right.
And one of the things that always pains me is when I sit down and I do a review with somebody and they're talking about this certain stuff, and they ask me, they're like, "Do you do that?" And I was like,
yes.
"Yeah,
we do that."
We talked about that on day 1.
Yeah,
I do that.
But people just like they just tune it out because they're not paying attention to that. That's not their priority. And
right. And if you're hearing that as a business owner, that should be the thing that lets you know that you're not doing a good enough job of letting people know I do these things. Right. I'm not breaking through that obscurity. I'm not getting through that noise, whether that's on social media or anything else that I'm marketing through. Yeah. Letting people know, even if they're already current clients, that I provide those services already.
Right. I don't know. I feel like it's something that a lot of people don't focus on, is marketing that. And a lot of people don't focus on the marketing of the product, whatever it may be.
Do you think people know how to market?
No. People don't know how to market. I think people understand what, as soon as they look at something, people understand, oh, they're trying to sell me. Oh, they're trying to, you walk into the store and somebody says, "Hi, how are you?" And it's immediately turned off. They're selling me something. I don't want that. I don't want that product.
Here's the real thing businesses don't know how to do. That's not even the marketing side of it. That's simply being able to sell.
Right.
Like, that's it. You shouldn't ever ask, "Hey, how are you doing? Can I help you look for something?"
No.
What's the answer is no.
No.
Right?
Always. Anytime you open, that's one thing, like, so I worked at a bank and we sold products, and that's how it went. And working at that bank really taught me you have to be asking the open-ended questions, because if it's just, "How are you doing?" "Oh, no, thanks. Leave me alone."
Right.
But if it's more questions like, "Hey, how's your family?" Or, "Oh my gosh, your shoes are so cute." As soon as you hit with like a compliment initially and then you go in with something else, then people are way more willing to be able to purchase your product or whatever it may be. But again, I think that people don't understand how to properly maneuver that first. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like
the right
things are like
everything.
spinning in my head.
Yeah.
But
being as a business owner, as a salesperson, because they're basically the same thing.
Right.
You have to understand what questions to ask and how to ask them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden you're going to a complete stranger who doesn't know you. You don't know how to talk to them, and you've got to be able to all of a sudden understand exactly what they need, why they need it, and what their time frame is.
Yeah.
Right?
And you have to be paying attention. I feel like a lot of people are not paying attention because it's just, okay, so this is the product that I need to sell today. I need to sell 6 pairs of shoes, and these 6 pairs of shoes needs to be sold. And that's what needs to be sold. Okay, so somebody comes in and they say, hey, I'm looking for a pair of boots. I'm looking for this specific pair of boots. And they're like, okay, so what about this pair of shoes, high heels or whatever it is that you happen to, this is what you need to be selling that day. And it's like, no, you need these shoes. And what you're doing without understanding, okay, so what is it that you're looking for? Okay, so you're looking for boots. Okay, so you're looking for really tall boots. Okay, let's buy these. Let's look at this, and this different option for these boots. But instead, people are just like, okay, this is the product that needs to be sold. And this is how we're going to sell it. And that's it. And I think a lot of business owners don't pay attention to that.
There's too much roboticness about how it goes about.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is people are sick and tired of that.
Yeah.
Right? And if businesses don't continue to evolve with the consumer, then they're not going to stick around.
Well, and if businesses aren't asking the questions, I think that's really a big problem that I really think a ton of businesses are facing, is that the question of, okay, so how is it that we can evolve? I think where you said that's perfect, because there's so much that's happening, and it's happening so quickly. Everything is shifting and moving, and it freaks a ton of people out. Change is terrifying, but everybody has to deal with it.
Being able to get out of your comfort zone is a skill.
Yeah.
And it's a skill that a lot of generations haven't learned, both past and present.
Right.
And being able to break out of your comfort zone in order to get what you want or to help people, because essentially that's what you should be doing in the first place, is something that if you can find that in somebody, hire that person.
Finding that innate ability that somebody has to be able to say, okay, so this is how it works. And then rather than like, okay, so here's the product, here's what we need to sell, here's how we need to sell it. Like it just needs to be broken down more. So an analogy, one of the things that we do with my job is, you find a topic to talk about, something big comes up, and it's like, hey, there's mac and cheese flavored ice cream, right? It's a thing. It really is. And it looks disgusting.
That sounds disgusting.
So gross. I don't know why you would even think about it. But the first question that comes to your mind is, would you eat it? Right? So you go past the first, right? You go past the first question and you go to the second question, because the first question is what everybody is thinking. And so as soon as you have a first question that comes into your mind with a topic, you throw it out. And then you go up with the second question, because everybody across the country that is using this same service to be able to find conversation starters, etc., this same service that's being used across the country, that's what everybody in the world is asking, is that first question. You throw it out, you go to the second question, because that's the one that people are not thinking about. And
it's the one they're not hearing.
Yeah. Everybody's hearing the same question. You go back to like the freaking halftime show that I have to keep very generic so that we don't get sued. You go back to that, and it's like the first question was, oh my gosh, did you like that? Could you imagine that? And everybody's talking about it instead of like going past it and talking about other things that also were happening that everybody was tired of hearing about that big performance.
Yeah. But also the interesting stuff that comes because of the peaks of that performance.
Yeah.
Right? And one of the things that just baffles me about marketing, both social media and other forms of marketing, is what everybody ends up getting caught up on.
Right.
Right. The stuff that, for example, I was watching a TikTok video.
Love TikTok.
Earlier this morning.
So in love with TikTok.
And the video was literally guys jumping in the air and having them come down in slow-mo and watching their faces change and distort with...
That's hilarious.
With the change of force once they hit the ground. And the amount of views and likes that had was seriously
outrageous,
surprising.
But nobody thinks about that.
No, they don't.
That's not. Everybody thinks about, okay, so everybody else is dancing, so let's just dance. But I think that's so important that to look outside of what everybody else is doing.
If I was starting a business today, and I still take these same strategies into account,
right?
You have to follow trends on social media. If
Absolutely,
you're going to be on social media.
Absolutely.
But the other thing about it is, you have to be creative enough to find a way turn those trends into marketable actions for your business.
Absolutely.
For example, if I was an apparel company, the first thing I would do was send those boys T-shirts.
Definitely.
Say, look, here's a free T-shirt.
Please wear my T-shirt. Just have it. And then as soon as you know, and if it's a cool T-shirt, they're going to keep wearing it. It's not a, here, have my T-shirt, but you have to brand it, and you have to tag me, and you have to blah, 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 blah.
Right. You start putting restrictions on all
they're
this
not
going to
wear it.
No, they're not. And if they are, then you better be paying them to wear it. But if you just send them a T-shirt, hey, here's a gift.
Right. It's a gift. If
and
they
it's
wear
gonna
it,
make
great.
a video.
Yep.
Because it's a gift.
Yep.
Right. And then people are going to start to ask about the T-shirts.
Yep. And then it spreads.
Cool
you know, and that's so simple. That's so cheap, really. Especially if you're going to be making the T-shirts anyway.
Right.
It's so cheap, and it's free advertising.
It is.
And that's the best, to find free advertising.
Yeah.
Find places that you can advertise for free on.
Stuff I don't have to pay for is always good.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Depending on what it is.
Well, that's what everybody as a human freaking values is free. Save them money. Free.
See, but that's the stigma that everybody believes. Mm-hmm. I don't actually think that's true.
Really?
What everybody values is the quality that they get out of it.
Also true. That's very true.
If I don't pay for anything and I get a little quality, in my mind as a consumer, that's a win.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm overpaying for low quality,
right,
I'm not going to keep that. And if I'm underpaying for high quality, then I'm going to keep it.
Yeah.
The true win is when you as a business owner are able to convey some sort of customer service level where the consumer is okay paying for quality.
Yeah. And then provide that quality and above.
And above. And that's the way that you get to keep it.
Yeah.
Right? One of the things that, if we're allowed to talk about names, one of the things that Gary Vee talks about all the time.
Love him.
And a lot of people talk about is the long game.
Yeah.
Right? And especially in a business, if you're not able to create return business with your first sale, then you're probably not doing it correctly.
Absolutely. And I think I really want to talk about this because I think a lot of people that are in business are not thinking about being in business for a B2C type business. People are more so focused on being B2B. And I think it's really important that people focus on the B2C because the B2C is the one that's actually going to provide you a return. Because B2B is great. You can go out and you can sell this, that, or the other thing. But if you're not providing value to that customer, they're not going to come back.
No,
you sell them one time and that's all you get.
Yeah. So the big question then at that point is, how do I create that return sale?
You have to provide value, I think, in the first... I think you have to provide value by sitting down and actually listening to the customer and hearing what it is that they want. Listening to the client, listening to understand, okay, so what is it that you want to accomplish? And then once you do that, then you can provide value, services, products, whatever it is, to make sure that that customer is a repeat customer and they are coming back. Not just because it's like, oh, crap, well, I'm out of this, that, or the other thing, but because it's like, okay, so I know that this specific business has this specific thing, but they also treated me really well as a customer, so I'm coming back.
For sure. I think it's even a little bit simpler than that.
Oh,
you ready
great.
for this?
Yes.
One of the biggest things that companies miss is they're selling to people.
Yes.
Everybody likes to think that they're different than everybody, and everybody is. Everybody's individual and unique and beautiful.
Right, right.
But we're all still humans, right? Well, yeah. But we're all still humans, and we're all still wired very similarly. So when I think, hey, how can I recreate a scenario in which they would return and redo business with me? The first thing I think about is, when have I gone back and redone business with somebody?
Yeah.
And why did I did it?
Yep.
And how can I replicate it? Right?
Yeah.
So, McCall, you're really into a lot of different things. When was the last time you thought, man, that was really cool of them to do, they didn't have to do that?
Oh, so actually, one of the people that I had on the podcast just a couple of days ago, I went over to Mamo's, actually, and I went in and I ended up getting some food. And
Mamo's is so good.
Jason is such a good dude. Like, anyway, we ended up going over there, and James was up front, and he was like, okay, so here's this and this and this. I'll tell you what, you guys have been so patient, and it's cold outside, and so since it's cold outside here, I'll give you this drink for free. And it's just like, you didn't need to do that, and then people come around and they check on you, and they take care of you, and they make sure that they are taking care of you on a personal level.
Right.
And not just on a, like, okay, so here's what it is. Sorry, bro, I can't do anything about it. Like,
So you said a couple buzzwords that I want to point out.
Yeah.
The first one is the phrase, they didn't need to do that.
Yep.
Okay. The second one is personal.
Yep.
Right? One of my favorite Gary Vee stories since we both listen to Gary Vee.
Yeah.
Gary Vee tells a story about how he was trying to get. He ends up selling a $17 bottle of wine, and as a thank you to that customer, he went out and bought his favorite jersey. I think is how the story goes, and sent it to him.
Yeah.
And the guy's friend ends up hearing this story and turns around and ends up buying thousands of dollars worth of wine.
That's crazy. Right. But it's because of that.
But it was because the guy who received the jersey, which was actually more than the cost of the bottle of wine of itself, right, ended up telling that story to his friends. Yeah. And so his friends turned around and he didn't need to do that. Like, that's super cool. Right. I want to do business with people like that.
Well, right? And people get hyped up. That's the one thing I think. People get so hyped about talking about good things that happened. People get hyped about talking about bad things that happened. Your reputation is something like that. That is the only thing that you have.
So the point of that is that personal touch to it. Yeah. Right? You've got to find a way with every single interaction that you have with people, regardless of what industry that you're in, to be able to add some sort of personal follow-up to that that makes them feel good.
Absolutely.
One of the biggest examples of this, and because we're not naming names, I will just say I end up, because I'm on such a big health kick right now, I end up taking a lot of supplements. Right. And one of the companies that I end up buying supplements from has this nailed down so perfectly. Really? That I've ended up copying a lot of the stuff that they do, which copying is business, people.
It really is. People get so frustrated about it, but that's exactly what it is. Copying is you know, you find a meme on Facebook, you find a meme on any social media, you steal it. Yeah. Everybody steals it. That's how it goes. Anyway.
So a couple things that they do that I absolutely love. The first one is every time I get a box, inside of that box is the shipping label. And on that shipping label, every time without fail, is a 3 to 5 sentence thank you note from the person who packed the box.
And it's so personalized.
And it's super personalized.
That's incredible.
It always has my name in it, and it always has their name in it.
That's incredible.
The second thing is, after a couple different sales and during the holidays, I've never met these people. I've never done any of this kind of stuff. Or gone and hung out with them or anything, but I always get a holiday card, and every couple weeks I get a thank you card.
That's cool.
Right, which is unheard of. Yeah. And I mean, we're talking about, a $50 bottle of protein. Right. Like, this is not...
You're not spending hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars on something. Exactly. Yeah. But it's just building that brand, building that reputation, building that rapport with your customer. If you want to use professional words, it's just being a human. It's just taking care of humans and doing things that humans crave. Humans crave attention, and they crave support from other people. And it's like, if you send a thank you letter, thank you note, it takes 2 seconds. Yeah. Write it, fill it out. Oh no, you're out of stamp. What are you going to do?
Right.
Get over it.
It's a very low cost, high return type of marketing. And the other thing is it's a long-term play, right, that will yield results. The last thing that this company does that I think is amazing, and we've talked about this actually in other things, is anytime I get a communication from this company, it's always from someone.
And it's not from the brand or whatever.
It's never from the brand. But I see the contrast a lot with different apparel companies, for example. Every time I can, again, we're not mentioning names, but I can tell you down to the time of day that I get these emails from these apparel companies.
And that's the crazy thing. I don't understand why people don't get it.
Right. And it's always an ad, 25% off. Look at our new item, any of that kind of stuff.
I hate it, but it's from the brand.
But it's from the brand.
Yep. Every morning I wake up, literally 5 o'clock in the morning, and I have like 15 emails.
It might be the same company.
Like, delete. I don't even open it.
The difference is with the supplement company, one, it always comes from somebody. Yeah. And two, it's more of a personal note than an advertisement. And obviously, if you're going to send an email, there's a reason you're sending the email. Right. The difference is that inside of that email, it's way more personalized to the fact where it's almost like they wrote me a letter to introduce this thing. Instead of just attaching a picture, a percentage discount, and a link to buy it in an email.
You got to figure out how to be able to capture your audience. And your audience is a human. And if your audience being a human, you don't think about it on the note of there's 15,000 people that are going to get this email. You think about it on the note of there is one person that is going to get this email today, and you personalize it that way. That's so stinking important. Again, I go right back to the same things because every single morning I have to sell myself, not in a weird way, but that's just how it is. I have to sell who I am. I have to sell my personality, my brand, and the way that I sell my brand and my personality is you are having a conversation with one person.
Right.
You are not having a conversation with hundreds of people. You are having a conversation with one person. You are directing your conversation at one specific person. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't focus on now. Big brand companies don't focus on right now. You get signed up for all of these rewards programs, and that's exactly what they do is they just push out their mass advertising. And, you know, it may have worked. You talk about Gary Vee and how he launched all of his wine business and how he was massively successful with Google and sending out emails and everybody thought that he was crazy for it. We need to be adapting as humans, as people in the marketing industry on how to be able to make it so that you are capturing your audience within 3 seconds of being able to see the email and you are making sure that person knows it is a personalized message. And the easiest way to do that is to be authentic. Duh.
Yeah. Well, and I love the fact that you've got to think about it in that you're talking to one person.
Yeah.
And when you look at a lot of the type of marketing that a lot of these bigger companies or a lot of these bigger names, a lot of these gurus, if that's the word that you want to use, are using, it's very individualized.
Yeah.
Right? How many of them will put out a phone number out on social media and they will actually text you back?
Yeah. You know, that's something that I've really noticed. I've noticed a lot. I pay a lot of attention to the way that people are marketing and the way that trends are happening, thanks to, again, Gary Vee for freaking talking about paying attention to what people are doing. One of the beauty influencers that I follow very closely has started doing text messages. And I'm like, okay, so he's got to be listening to Gary Vee because I don't know anybody else that really is doing that right now. You know, there are a ton of other people that have had the text message platforms, but he is responding personally and it'll be like, hey, so-and-so, you know, and then it'll be like a picture of him. Like the conversation just rolls. And it's very interesting because texting I think is going to blow up again because everybody had their like text club things and whatever. And then it got way less personalized. But
that's what happened, right? All of a sudden I was getting a mass text from a company and I wasn't paying attention. Here's one of the things, again, regardless size of business, or even if you're just starting a business, if you want to end up reaching that level of personal service, I think some of the biggest moves that CEOs of companies could make today is doing a Facebook Live with people who buy from that company.
Absolutely. Right? Bringing people in or something and fly them in because those people aren't going to be able to afford to fly in now.
I wouldn't even say fly in. I would just go live on Facebook.
Yeah.
And fans of that company, for example, if I was the CEO of an apparel company, I just start a live and I just say, hey guys, what are some things that you guys would like to see?
Yeah. That's something that I've talked, this is a recurring theme. In the last couple of podcasts that I've done, this has been very, very interesting to see, is that people listen to their reviews. And it's something that's so important to listen to the reviews because if you are not consumer centric and you are not listening to what the people are saying, what those people that are purchasing your food or, you know, buying your product, whatever it may be, if you're not listening to what they're saying, you are going to be left behind. Because if you keep doing what you want to be doing because it's what you want to be doing, people don't care.
Yeah.
You may as well just become your own like brand. And maybe that's what you want to do. If that's what you want to do, great. But people are just going to like, I don't know. It's so infuriating to me when people don't listen to the customer. And I think that just comes from how I grew up with my mom doing what she does and then seeing her in all of her different ventures, whatever the word is, seeing her in all of her different ventures and then going into all of the different customer service things that I've been in. Everybody is in the customer service industry, whatever your case may be, whatever job you're in the customer service industry. Well, hospitality is like always number one.
You're in the people business, and that's what people have to understand is you're not in the real estate business. You're not in the insurance business. You're not in the clothing business. You are in the people business.
Yep.
And people end up doing things or buying for one of three reasons. One, because they love something.
Yep.
Two, because they have a problem to solve. Or three, because it's an appearance issue.
Yeah.
Right? And if you are able to help people fix whatever of those things that they need to fix,
right,
then all of a sudden you become the advice of counsel on that thing.
Yeah.
Right? And that's when as long as you create a personal follow-up afterwards, then you'll start to see recurring business.
Yeah.
One of the other things that it's funny that you mentioned, business have to listen to the customer and they've got to follow their reviews. I think businesses need to take it a step further and they need to analyze the results of that. You can't just take a couple different reviews or even the majority opinion of whatever people are reviewing and change based off of that thing without an analysis.
Right.
One of the things I read recently, I just finished the book Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. Have you read that?
No, I don't read very much.
Put it on your Audible list.
I should listen to. I listen more so than read, but yeah.
David Goggins he's an insane guy, just super cool. And one of the things he talks about being a Navy SEAL is after every operation, they would do what they call an AAR, which is an after-action report. And we started implementing this in our business about 1.5 years ago, so that we could sit down as a management team and say, we just did this. What was good? What was bad? What were the results? Would we do this again? And what would we change? And we've been able to end up cutting a lot of the crap where we're spending money that's not seeing results in order to put that money back into things that produce for the business, simply because we sit down and we have that conversation. But also when it comes up for next year, we know, hey, this is how we're going to do this year.
Yeah.
Right? Being able to analyze the results of what you're doing is a key component in being a successful business.
Well, I think it's so important to be constantly analyzing too, because if you're not constantly analyzing and you're only analyzing every couple of months or something, you're sitting back and being like, oh, okay. I think that there is more improvement that can be made by constant analysis than just waiting. Because it's like, oh, well, one day it works out really well. Oh, well, this other day it doesn't work out really well. But it's okay because we're still improving. There was a podcast, actually, that Danny made me freaking listen to way back in the day that I listened to from, what's his name? Andy Frisella.
Andy.
Yeah. And
he's got a second one now?
No way, really? I got to go listen to it.
So he stopped doing MFCEO project, and now he does a new one. I can't say the name of that.
Yeah, well,
one.
Right. But. Because, but I gotta go listen to it. So the podcast that he ended up doing, it was the Win the Day podcast, and I listened to it, and then I made
episode 107.
Episode number 107. Check it out. It is vulgar. I mean, hello, MFCEO. What do you think it stands for? So we listened to it. I made my co-host listen to it as well. I made my boss listen to it, and then we all started kind of implementing it, because if you are not making sure. There was an analogy that I used that I heard the other day for the first time, actually, about driving. And when you're driving, you constantly have to have your hands on the wheel, right? Because if you don't, and you just push your gas down, then you're going to go off the road, and then you're going to get crashed, and then you're going to have to call Danny.
You need an alignment.
Yeah, you need an alignment. But, you can crash off the side of the road turns if you don't get your hands on the wheel, and then you turn, whatever. But that's something that, if you're not analyzing, if you're not paying attention, and if you're not taking control by doing those things and making sure that you're following your goals and you're hitting those steps in the Win the Day podcast or in the, whatever, to be able to make sure that you are accomplishing what you need to be accomplishing, what you want to be accomplishing to make you hit those next big steps.
Yeah, I love it. But the main point of that podcast and the main, a lot of what Andy talks about is that you're only ever going to be as successful as the habits that you put into place.
Yep.
Right?
And if you're not putting in those successful habits, then you're just SOL, bro.
Exactly. And so the question at that point is, hey, I want to start a business, right? I want to quit my job. I want to go to do my thing. Right?
Yeah.
That's the point of the podcast. So what are the habits that I need to put in place that are going to make me successful?
Right. You can't sit at home in sweatpants all day long and eat ice cream and drink chocolate milk. And I mean, you can, whatever, you do you, boo. But also, if you want to have a successful business, you have to be making sure that you are putting in those habits of the hard work, of the grind, of the get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and
4:45.
Yeah, there you go. I get up at stupid times in the morning.
You get up way earlier.
I hate it. But this is what I want to do, and this is what makes me happy, and that's been my biggest priority for my life is happiness. If I'm not happy, then what the crap am I even doing in my life? If I'm not happy and if I'm not pursuing happiness, then there is no point. So that has been my main focus. If I'm happy and I'm making less money than I would be making if I were doing something else that I would be miserable doing, I'm not doing that. I will do the happiness all the time.
Yeah, I love that. I think a lot of people take that out of context.
Yeah.
Because the truth is that the happiness in your life is going to be measured off of a very long time span.
Yeah.
Right? Just because you're doing something in this moment that you don't want to do.
Right.
Doesn't not mean
you're
not
miserable.
Happy. Exactly.
Right. You have to evaluate on a bigger scale. And I think a lot of people, don't get me wrong, there are days of my job that suck.
Oh, heck yeah.
But it's like the worst days at my job are still better than the best days doing all of the other jobs that I've been doing.
Right.
And it's something that if you prioritize your happiness, because again, that is my number one with everything. This is what's going to make me happy. Okay, what are the steps that I need to be doing to be able to be happy? Oh, I have to get up at 3:00 in the morning? Freak. Guess I'm going to be drinking a jug of coffee the whole entire way into work.
Pre-workout.
Every freaking day. Pre-workout, actually, fun story, tangent for just a hot minute. I actually drank pre-workout for the very first time when I was living in Vernal. I went over to the gym. I drank pre-workout before I went to the bank to go to work. And
you didn't drink it before your workout?
Well, I was going to the gym before I was going to work, and so it was whatever. Anyway, I ended up getting up at 5:00 in the morning. I hate mornings. Oh my gosh, I work mornings and I hate mornings. And I got up and I decided I'm going to drink a pre-workout. So I drank it, and then I went to a CrossFit training class, which was a mistake because then I went in and I didn't eat anything, and then I worked out, and then I threw up in the gym parking lot to the national anthem because it was at 6:00 in the morning, and the radio station out there turned on the national anthem at 6:00 in the morning, and I thought, man, there is nothing more patriotic than that.
There really is not.
Drinking pre-workout, throwing it up in the parking lot to the national anthem.
That is, but even in that little tangent, that is the definition of success. I made myself get up early.
Yep, you forced yourself to get up.
I did something that I didn't want to do.
Yep.
I ended up throwing up because of it.
Yep.
Right? And there's going to be a lot of those types of stories where, hey, I made myself do this, and it backfired.
Big time.
But guaranteed there were still good results that came out of that.
Absolutely.
So let me tell you about some of the habits that I've put in over the last couple of years that have helped me.
Bring on.
The first one is writing down my goals every single day. Mm-hmm. And writing them down in the present tense. Mm-hmm. So let's say it's a monetary goal. Let's say, hey, I want to have a 7-figure income, right? When I write that goal down, I write it down as if I've already accomplished it in a time frame.
So I have a 7-figure income.
Yeah. I'm 37 and I have a 7-figure income.
Yeah.
Right. And what happens is it starts to change your mindset, and you start to realize...
Oh, I freaking love this kind of stuff. Sorry.
You change your mindset to the point where you say, hey, I've already done this.
Right.
Now I just got to figure out how to do it.
Yep.
And doing that over a couple different areas of your life: health, family, finance, business, spiritual stuff. You know, what other areas you want to do will allow you to focus in on the things that are going to make you happy long term. And then you can figure out, and this is the second thing that I put in, the habits that you need to be able to develop in order to get there, right? And that's when Andy talks about the power list. You know, 5 habits that you can work on every day that are going to help you reach those goals.
Yeah.
And that's how you break it down. And then the third thing that I started doing is I started putting timelines over a quarterly or a monthly basis of physical things I had to get done in order to take my business to the next step, right? So I've got to hire X amount of people. I've got to get into X amount of events. I've got to do X amount of posts. You know, that kind of stuff that is more to-do list oriented instead of habit related.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The fourth thing that I started doing once it got to the point in my business where I couldn't do everything myself. And heads up, if you are working by yourself, you've probably hit that point.
It's exhausting.
You probably hit it 2 weeks into creating your own business.
Absolutely.
Start hiring people now.
Yep.
Was learning how to delegate effectively.
Right.
And hire people that I could teach to do the things that I needed done successfully. Not just people who are going to be pencil pushers and who are going to do things.
Right.
But who are going to fix problems when they come along.
So what have been some of the biggest, just to tangent for just a hot second, what have been some of the biggest successes that you've seen in that, finding people that are going to be able to not just pencil push? Like biggest keywords, I guess.
Your interview process should be crazy hard.
Cool.
Because here's the problem. When people come in for an interview, what do? They conform to the interview.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. You got to be all over the place. I'm sure. Just be everywhere. I can't even imagine Danny with a freaking interview. You got to be sitting down with like everything. Okay, so what would you do if your horse got out and you had to go catch him? And
so here's a couple things that I asked during an interview. The first one is, tell me about a time that you committed to doing something, found out it was going to be harder than what you thought,
and what you did,
and whether you quit or not,
yeah,
and why you did or didn't. And some of the things that come back are inspiring. And some of them, within that one question, I know that I don't want to work with that person.
I love that question. Say it again for the people in the back, please.
So, tell me about a time that you committed to doing something, found out it was going to be harder than what you thought, whether you did or didn't quit, and why you did or didn't. And
I love that.
A lot of people talk about past life experiences. A lot of people talk about things that they ended up quitting and why they ended up quitting them. And those stories a lot of the times reveal more about those people. And I've probably hired more of the people who ended up quitting than others for certain reasons. But you've got to be able to develop those hard type of questions in interviews.
Absolutely. It tells so much about the people that you are bringing in, and seriously the representation that they're going to be giving you, because especially in a brand-based company, in a brand-based brand-based world, really, that's really what we are in, is more of a brand-based world. You need to know that those people are going to represent you well, and they're going to be able to handle your ish that you're going to have to give
all the time. Here's the thing. If you don't like hanging out with them in the interview, you're not going to want to work with them in 6 months.
It's going to be miserable.
Yeah, you're just
absolutely miserable.
And people talk about, it should be a professional environment where that kind of stuff doesn't matter.
Please, it is life.
I don't know who created HR departments or these type of roles, but the truth is that's not reality.
No.
It's just not.
No.
And you don't want to work with those people. And businesses that are successful have created cultures where people get along and they have an insane level of camaraderie and they work as a team.
Yeah.
And you can't do that if there's conflict in between people. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't hire people that you don't have conflict with. Conflict is one of the most successful
You can work it out.
habits
Absolutely. Right. You can always work it out.
The difference is you have to be with people that can work it out.
Yeah.
So let me tell you a story. We hired a secretary one time that just could not deal with conflict, whether that was with me or with clients. And the problem with that was we didn't know.
Yeah.
Because she didn't like conflict.
You just sweep it under the rug and it goes away.
Exactly.
Yep.
We didn't know about the problems until it was a real problem.
Turns into like fight or flight type thing.
And so these issues were not big issues, but if they'd been presented
way earlier,
way
sooner,
it wouldn't have been that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And I think businesses, they try to stay away from the conflict, and you've got to be able to successfully manage conflict in a business.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, the culture's not going to work.
Absolutely.
The next thing that I ask in interviews is, tell me about a time that you made a mistake, how you owned up to it, and how you fixed it.
Yeah.
Because in my specific industry, a mistake can mean a lot of money for specific people, right? And so I like to know that instead of having something happen where all of a sudden we play the blame game.
And, yes.
I know that when a mistake is found, it's going to be fixed fast to our best ability, having done everything that we can do for the client.
Yeah.
Not for me. We're not going to try to fix it so that I look good.
No, well, of course not, because that's the biggest thing that I think gets a lot of people, is that you don't take ownership for your issues. You don't take ownership because it makes you look better, and everybody is so concerned about their own self-image, rather than making sure that the person, this goes right back into business. This goes right back into starting a business. If you are having a business and you are not taking ownership of, oh, hey, that cook messed up or something. If you're going out there and saying, sorry, my cook messed up, that's my bad. But instead you're saying, hey, that's my bad. I'm so sorry that I messed up.
And it is your mess
because it's you. You are the one that is in charge.
At some point in the training or the onboarding or whatever it was,
you were the one that messed up.
You didn't convey the message, right? So as somebody who wants to start a business, right? So you think you want to run a business. 2 books I would absolutely recommend.
Bring it.
Okay. First one is Extreme Ownership. This book was written with 2 Navy SEALs as co-authors.
Cool.
They go through the lessons that they ended up learning when we went to war back in the early 2000s. Lessons that we had lost with the many years of non-conflict. and the generational change between the military. And the second book is The Dichotomy of Leadership, written again by the same people, by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. Mm-hmm. And The Dichotomy of Leadership talks about being able to balance between when it is my fault and when it's actually their fault. Because the thing about it is yes, as a leader, you have the ultimate responsibility of what happens.
Absolutely.
But if I'm going to develop people who are going to be able to work for me, at some point, some of the accountability also has to be shifted.
Right.
At what point is this task that I've given to them too much, right? Or am I not giving them enough? Am I holding them back? And we have everybody who works for us read those two books. One,
That's
because
awesome.
I want my staff to understand what I'm dealing with.
Absolutely.
Right? But two, because I want that culture to go multiple layers deep.
Yeah. So back to your habits, because I cut you off with your habits that you were forming every single day.
Yeah. So the fifth one actually is reading.
Oh, great.
Yeah. And McCall, I know you hate this, right?
I listen. That's my thing. Is that I'm such an audio learner, and like I listen to like all of the podcasts. Like I listen to Gary Vee. I love Gary Vee's stuff, and I listen to that all the time. But I do like a ton of more like. I don't know. I need to read. I need to start reading.
There's something about reading that's different than listening, for sure. But you don't have to start with reading. And these are my habits, right? They don't have to be yours. But the idea behind this is taking in information that's actually going to be good for you.
Right.
Okay? So one of the goals I have is I want to read a book a week. Okay, we are how many weeks into the month?
I don't know.
I'm through, or into the year, sorry. I'm 5 books down.
Nice.
I know I'm behind by a couple weeks, right? But the difference is
that's fine.
Constantly taking in that information, just like constantly doing analysis of the business actions and what we're doing. Yeah. Constantly taking in information that's going to benefit me and constantly learning.
Yeah.
And if you can develop that habit, whether it's, hey, I'm going to go through 100 TikTok videos and figure out what the next trend is going to be and see if I can get on top of it.
Dude, I spend so much freaking time on TikTok trying to figure out what's next. It's so fun.
I wish that...
Dude, I love it.
My phone had the ability to lock certain apps
Yeah.
For specific times.
Mine does, and I have it on Facebook, and I have not even been using, because I think on Facebook I have it for like an hour and a half, because for my job I'm on social media all day long. Like right. That is my job. And I'm on Facebook, and I turned it off for like an hour and a half, because I was like, anytime that I'm spending more than an hour and a half, I start to become super, super, super negative because of the content that I'm consuming on that app. And since it has been so divisive on Facebook right now, that has been the app that I'm like, you know what, I'm not gonna do it. So I looked at it yesterday. I think I spent 20 minutes on Facebook yesterday, and like basically all of this week, because I just can't, and I just go to TikTok instead, and I spend all of the time on TikTok.
Yeah. Have you noticed a time shift in your social media?
Yeah, I have. It's been amazing. I've been looking at it a ton, because it's got on my phone, it has the whole breakdown of it, and I love it. I made Dustin look at it once, and he was like, holy crap, you spent 7 hours on your phone? And I'm like, yes. 4 hours is literally looking at it every single day.
Yeah.
That is my job.
I'm going to have to get a new phone, because it's to the point where my battery doesn't last anymore, right?
Same.
So,
what up, phone? I need a new one.
Yeah. One of the things I recommend is when something like that comes out, and a lot of people talk about this in a lot of the content I consume anyway.
Yes.
Is, dude, spend hours on that new app.
Yep.
Figure out how to use it.
Yep.
And figure out how to use it to your advantage. And then do it.
Yep.
And what you'll find is, instead of just wasting all of your time on one app, you will get so fed up with it so quickly that it won't matter. Now you know how to use it. Now you know how to use it effectively, and now you can go back to the other platforms.
And that's been the crazy thing, because I've noticed that exact same thing, because seriously, I was on TikTok, and I would be on TikTok for like 4 hours, and it was like, how did I do this? And now I don't remember. Let's see, earlier today I scrolled through a little bit on TikTok, but I think I maybe have spent like 5 to 10 minutes on TikTok today, and I've uploaded like 3 videos on there already. Yeah. And it's incredible, because you start learning about these apps, and really I think that learning about the newer apps and seeing those newer apps that are coming out really helps you to learn how to target your posts on other apps, on TikTok, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, and really doing things on those apps helps you to be able to hear your own voice when it comes to the social media side of things, and hear who you are to post.
It also
them.
helps you break out. Like
it really does.
If you think you have a hard time talking to people in person,
oh gosh,
go do something on social media.
Right.
That's like the step, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to get judged for it. But people are going to be looking at their phones. They're not going to be looking at you in person.
Oh boy, people are charging you for everything. People look at you weird in the my hair is blue. I go places and I get the weirdest looks. And it's like, guess what? Yes, my hair is blue, but guess what? It's a dark world out there. So I might as well brighten it up, okay? I just hate it.
We've kind of touched on this a little bit. Habit number 6 is do some sort of mental discipline exercise.
Okay.
When we start talking about, man, I end up spending so much time. That's the buzz phrase.
Yeah, it really is.
That you realize that you're not being effective. Mm-hmm. You need to start doing mental discipline exercises where you start to develop habits of changing gears. One of the other books that I read is called the AMRAP mentality.
I love that book. Actually, I haven't read the book. Backtrack.
Did you
I've listened to the podcast
Yeah.
from Jason Khalipa.
Yeah.
Love him.
He's the author of the book.
Good
One
dude.
of the things he talks about in the book is being able to change gears.
Yeah.
And he gives the analogy of a bicycle. When you're riding a bicycle, you twist the dial, it changes gears, you change speeds, all that kind of stuff. But you've got to be able to develop the mental discipline that when you are in, for example, an appointment, you are in that appointment.
Yep.
You're not running social
There's
media
not
while
other
you're on the
things that
appointment.
are going.
Right. You're not thinking about what you're going to do for the next workout in that appointment.
Yep.
Or when you're at the gym, you're at the gym.
Yep. That's so with the AMRAP mentality, what it is as many reps as possible is what it stands for. And it's making sure that you are focusing and devoting that time to whatever your item is, whatever it is. And the gym is especially where they use it. I mean, obviously as many reps as possible. That's what reps are for.
Yeah, there you go, dude.
But you just focus directly onto that. And that has been something that has really shifted. I'm so glad that you brought that up because it's been that's been something that has shifted my mentality too with a lot.
Yeah. How much stuff can I get done in as little of time as possible?
Yep.
And since we're talking about time as well, very early on when I started doing my own stuff, I realized that if I did not plan out every second of every day, nothing was going to get done.
YouTube was my little spiral hole that would be like, oh, where'd everything go?
You would waste time on the dumbest stuff.
Yeah.
That had nothing to do with it. So I realized this listening to a podcast by Grant Cardone, and he said that blank space on a calendar was the devil.
It's
awful. If you wanted to see the devil, just leave your calendar blank.
Yep.
And what he meant by that is if you don't plan the day, the day's going to plan you.
Yep.
Right? So now, every day before I get to work, or every night before I go to bed, depending on how tired I am,
right?
I go through and I literally plan every second of every day where I'm going to be doing X thing during that time.
Yeah.
And I've already started creating plan Bs as well so that when something doesn't happen or an appointment doesn't show up, things change, then I've already got effective use of my time planned into those time slots so that I can take advantage of that AMRAP mentality and do as much effective stuff as possible during that day.
Yeah. I think that's so important. I have I planner everything out. I get made fun of all the time. And I love it because it just is what it is. But I've got my planner right there. I've got my planner on my phone and I put everything in and I cross-reference it and I let it be known to the other people that I'm doing things with that day. Okay, this is what I'm doing. So if you want me to come in today, I'm not coming in today because I have this, that, or the other thing going on. I need to go through and I need to be planning it night before or something to be able to figure that out for down to the exact minute. But I have it broken down basically in like 20 to 30 minute time slots. And so it's broken down that way. But something that I actually really want to touch on is this conversation of if you don't plan your day plans you. Goes right back into the beginning of your day and setting the intention for the day. I don't know that I've really talked about this very much, but this is something that I have found to be so stinking important because if I do not set my intention for the day, if I do not get up and I set the intention of, okay, today's going to be a happy day and I choose happiness, if I don't choose that happiness initially at the beginning of the day, I go about the day just waiting to see what my day is going to be like. Because it's like, okay, what bad thing is going to be determined how the rest of my day is going to go.
Right. What fire am I going to have to put out today?
Exactly. And if you don't sit down and say, okay, nothing can get in my way to make me, nothing can get in my way of success today, then I just feel like I get screwed if I don't, because then
sure.
I'm in a garbage mood. And so I did that, especially this morning. And it's like, it's amazing to see the days that I don't and the days that I do, because today I've just been like, heck yeah, I'm freaking killing it. I got so much good stuff going on. And then yesterday it was like, I literally drank 3 cups of coffee and I snapped at my boss yesterday and started crying. Like, McCall, why did you do that? I have no idea.
It's a mental discipline thing.
Oh, ridiculous. Right. If I don't mentally discipline myself first thing in the morning, it's like I'm running rampant, like my freaking analogy.
So how do you do that?
A lot of the times what I do is I will get up and I will make a cup of coffee and I will avoid my phone for the first 15 to 20 minutes, and I will sit down and I will just drink my cup of coffee and set the intention, and I won't think about what I have to get done today. I won't think about any of that, and that is the hardest freaking stuff to do, to not think about what you've got going on. But first thing I do, I get up, I drink my cup of coffee, and I just enjoy it. And I will sit in my living room, because my living room, we've been remodeling my house, and we've been remodeling for like 3 stinking years, almost 4 years.
Since I've known you.
I think it's been almost 4 freaking years.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? But my living room's done now. My kitchen's done now. And so I'll go in and I get to sit on my couch that has been in storage for 3 years. And I sit on my couch and I'm like, oh, this couch is nice. And then I have a little shiggity plant that I look at and I'm like, oh, this plant is nice. I like this shiggity plant. And then I just appreciate it. And I notice that like the more gratitude that I put out, the more that it just comes in droves back. So
I love that.
That's how I start.
A couple similarities with the way I do it. First one is staying off my phone.
Yeah,
right?
So important.
So knowing where you live and knowing where I live, it's a decent amount of drive into town. Right? I mean,
it's awesome.
It's 25 minutes depending on where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And if I will stay off my phone, stay off the radio, stay off everything, and just drive on my way in, it's very calming.
Yeah.
But the difference between what I do and what you do is during that time period, I think of everything I have to do at the beginning of the day. Because at that point, I know that I cannot waste time during that day.
Right.
Because I've got so much stuff I've got to get done.
Yeah.
And it puts me in a mentality where I've got to be effective and I've got to be fast and we've got to move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that if you're going to create your own business, that's one of the mental disciplines that you've got to be able to
do. Yeah.
You've got to be able to say, hey, we're going to do it. We're going to do it right. We're going to get done fast.
It's going to suck, but we got to do it anyway.
Right.
Yep.
Because if you don't, you're going to end up procrastinating all of the most important things in your day, and then you're never going to do them. And now 3 weeks have gone by, and we've missed the opportunity.
Yeah.
Which actually brings up another thing that I like to read, and I read a lot, and I listen to a lot. But one of the other things I would suggest to anybody who's going to develop a business, or anybody who feels like they're not making an effective use of their time, is reading 7 highly effective habits.
Yeah. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I don't even know.
Who is it? Stephen R. Covey that does that one? Yeah. My dad was like all obsessed with that when I was growing up. That one, and then
it's a little bit older.
Yeah,
it's a little bit harder to read.
I can't remember. Rich Dad Poor Dad was the other one that he read.
Yeah,
I love that book. That was such a good book. I read that one.
There you go. Hey,
yay!
Look,
I read.
You can do it.
Oh, good.
But one of my favorite ideas from that book is the little graph that he draws where he talks about what's urgent and what's important, what's urgent and important, and what's urgent and not important.
Okay.
Right? And if you're going to be a successful business owner, you have to be doing important things that may not necessarily be urgent all of the time.
Yeah.
Hire a number 2 that's going to handle the things that are important and urgent, and pass off stuff that's urgent but not important to other people.
Yeah.
Because it's the important stuff that's probably not urgent that is the driver of the business.
Yeah.
For example, if I'm in sales, the important thing that probably isn't urgent is making phone calls.
Yeah.
And following up with people.
Yeah. And building your reputation with those people.
And there you go. Things that are important and urgent would be like client service stuff.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I've got a problem with this.
Right.
Right. And as much as you want to be able to handle that, and as much as you should be available, and you should be available to handle that.
Absolutely.
The first line of defense should be somebody who is just as capable to do it, but doesn't have the responsibility of driving the business.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to end up having all of your time sucked into that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then you'll find yourself in a stagnant spot in your business.
And that's no bueno. Being stagnant is not growing. You know, you're not doing anything beneficial for yourself.
No, we hit now this is kind of interesting that we're talking about this, but we hit kind of a stagnant spot in our business last year. And when we went through with our end of year analysis, our end of year AAR, after action report, trying to figure out what the freak went wrong because the business just wasn't growing. What we figured out was we were placing way too much effort on trying to systematize the process instead of systematize people. And what I mean by that is my business thrives off of the fact that I've got people working for me.
Yeah.
And the amount of contacts that we can make. And we got to a point where we got kind of fed up with the whole process of making that happen, of hiring and training and onboarding and doing more training and making them successful. So we thought, well, maybe we can just bypass the whole process and just put systems in place where we don't have to do that. And it was a complete and utter failure.
Yeah.
And what we took away from that, and the thing that has been a complete 180 turnaround for the business for this year, is we started systematizing the people instead of systematizing the process. So now when somebody comes in, there is a process of we go through this, and this, and I don't have to worry about, hey, what were we doing last week? What were we talking about last week? What, where are you at in your training? Any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
So it's taken a huge load out of the primary problem, which is, man, I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
With the people.
Right.
Into now I look forward to doing it.
Yeah.
Which means that the best results are going to end up coming out of that. And they already have. We started to see that already in our business.
Yeah.
So I would just caution people, you have to put business systems in place, but systematizing the people is going to end up yielding better results than just putting in processes that replace them.
Yeah. Well, I think that goes back to the analysis thing, because if you're not analyzing and you're not making sure that everything is in place, you can let these systems that have failed just keep going on, and then it's like, well, I don't understand, why is it not? And if you guys hadn't sat down and figured that out, hadn't gone through to figure it out, break it all down, then you never would have figured it out.
For sure. And it wasn't something that happened over 2 or 3 weeks, right?
No.
I mean, this was something that happened over 6-7 months,
right,
that we had to analyze.
Right.
And I think a lot of the times businesses think, okay, I'm going to try this, or somebody will say, hey, I'm going to try this, and I'm going to try it once.
That doesn't work. No, it doesn't you have to have the consistency to test it out and continue to test it out. And you have to be aware that sometimes your stuff is gonna fail. And if it fails, you have to be okay with scrapping it and starting all over again.
Absolutely.
And if you're not okay with scrapping it and starting all over again, then maybe you shouldn't start a business.
One of my favorite life ideas is if it's worth doing once, it's worth doing 100 times.
Yeah.
And you have to take that into account on a lot of different aspects. But regardless of whether something ended up working or not, if you do it once and it didn't work, how are you going to know that it actually didn't work if you don't do it 100 times
and
or
adjust
100,000
one little
times?
thing?
Exactly.
You tweak this thing, and then okay, there you go. That's better.
Or maybe I don't even tweak it.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe I try sending a letter, the
Yeah.
exact same letter
that you emailed, and
right. And if I send it one time and don't get a result, how do I know that that letter wasn't successful?
Right.
Right. If I send it to 100,000 different people, the results may be completely different.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of tying back to the same thing I said about when businesses go off of their reviews.
Yeah.
Don't go off of one review. Don't go off of 100 reviews. And when you look at that data based off of where that person is coming from and what point of view or perspective that they had.
Yeah.
Right. Otherwise, you're going to end up trying 100 different things one time and never finding anything that's successful.
Yeah. Sweet. Awesome. Danny, did you finish all of your habits?
Yeah, I think I did.
Okay, sweet. Anything else that you would like to add for successful business owners that want to start a business? And what's your one piece of advice? Like, if they could only hear one piece of advice.
Don't ask permission.
Just do it. I love that.
Too many people take into account way too many different opinions on what they want to do with their life.
Yeah.
And this has gotten me in trouble a lot, and I really don't care. It's gotten me a lot farther than in as much trouble as I got.
Yeah.
Stop asking permission and start doing it.
Yeah.
If it really becomes a problem, then you'll figure that out.
Yeah.
And until it's a problem, you'll probably be successful.
Yeah. There's actually a book that I read from Bobby Bones, who is a very successful syndicated radio DJ. He is the #1 country DJ in the country. He is awesome. I got to go see him in a conference once upon a time, and it was just absolutely incredible. But that's one of his big pieces of advice is don't ask permission, because that's how he got where he is to be successful. You break the rules. You know, you make sure that they're rules that are okay to be broken. We're not talking like don't go out and kill people.
I wouldn't say
please.
go specifically break the rules.
No, but push boundaries.
Yeah, well, and
see what's flexible, and then flex with it.
And don't ask somebody if you need to do it. Like, with a lot of different things, you can go and make something happen that somebody may not have been okay with until it happened.
And then it's like, oh, so it's bringing in money? Oh, okay, so that's okay now.
Yeah, it's bringing money. It's bringing in it's bringing in eyes. It's bringing in all this different stuff. Or it ended up with a better result, right? So don't let other people's perspective or your perspective of their perspective keep you from doing what you think is going to work.
Yeah.